the Day of the African Child, basically, I'm sure you may recall, in 1976, precisely June, black children from Soweto were basically protesting because the quality of education was bad. And all they asked for was for them to be taught in their own language and also to have quality education. But then the apartheid regime at the time decided to just kill them. So many of them lost their lives. Now, what this means, this day is celebrated basically to recognize the importance of that day and the spirit behind that particular march that led to a number of them die. And we don't want that day to just go unrecognized. And while we recognize and commemorate that day, we also want to let children of today know that we stand with them. Because we need to protect them. We need to make sure that wherever they are protected to be able to achieve their full potential. So that is the whole essence of it. And we also want children to seize that moment, the moment they have now. Because, in the past, people didn't have education. People didn't have the opportunity, the freedom they got. So that freedom should urge them to be able to use it wisely, to grow up to be responsible citizens. So that is the whole essence of it.
This year's theme focuses on planning and budgeting for children's rights. Why was this particular focus chosen for 2025?
The reason is, if we are going to ensure that the children are going to be taken care of and grow to be responsible citizens, then we need to make sure that we plan and budget for their rights. Most often what happens is governments in many countries budget. In Africa especially, we budget, we do planning, but we do without really taking into consideration sometimes the rights of children. And that is the whole essence of this whole thing. Now, what it means is that we expect, or the African Union expects, that all government within Africa budget taking into consideration basic principles. For example, equity, making sure there's also efficiency, transparency, and accountability. And first and foremost, they need to also prioritize marginalized children, disadvantaged communities, children in those areas where poverty is very deep, disability, exclusions, and many others. But not just that, but also using data to be able to identify where the needs are needed, the needs are greatest, so that the budget that can come out can be focused or child-centered, and most importantly, also ensure that there are adequate funding for essential services such as education, health, nutrition, etc. But the thing is that in Namibia, we have a government that really takes children's needs into consideration. If you take Namibia, over 50% of its budget is dedicated towards social services. That is why if you look at the health budget, if you look at education, protection, there's significant amount of money goes there. What we need to ensure, what government gives these monies in all favors to make sure that the value of the return on investment is commensurate, at least it matches the budget that is allocated, to make sure that children and citizens, or most importantly, children, can receive the services that these budgets are meant.
In your view, how well have African governments done in prioritizing children's needs in their national plans and budgets since 2010?
Well, there are mixed messages. In some places they do. In other places it's not as much as one would have expected. For example, if you take Namibia, the good thing is that Namibia, I think the government has done significantly well. It doesn't mean there cannot be improvement, but they've done well. If you take Namibia, we have the Children's Parliament that engages very well with the government, that ensures that government listens to children's voices. Because the most important thing is sometimes we think for them without really knowing what their needs are. But by involving them, they get to know what their needs are, and also ensure the budget is inclusive. Because then you can have children. If you take Namibia, in Africa, you have about 40% of the population are youth. So if they are youth, then that is significant. So you can't ignore this population when you are preparing budget. So I think it's important that in Namibia, the Children's Parliament is there. And also there you have the junior counselors. So there are basically instruments or institutions of children that ensure that the voices are heard and also incorporated into the national budget. And I can tell you, for example, we work very closely with the Children's Parliament. And what I have seen is that the Children's Parliament is very, very strong and their voices are heard because most of the discussed are taken up by government and implemented. So I think I can speak for Namibia and say that a lot has been done. A lot still needs to be done. Having acknowledged the contribution from government, I think there's still more to be done, and I'm sure the government is committed to that. And the evidence are also there to show.
From what you have seen, what are the biggest concerns children themselves raise when it comes to their rights and resources?
The major concern is security, because you can see recently there's been a number of cases where children are being either killed or harmed in various forms. There are issues of child marriages still persist. The issue of children being abducted and you just find their body somewhere still exists and is becoming a norm. The government is doing a lot for children. However, if they are not safe, then they cannot take advantage of the opportunities that are available to them. And that is why it's very important that every child, wherever they are, feels safe to be able to move around, to be able to take the opportunities that they have in terms of education, in terms of access to the various services that are available. And I think here, it is not, you see, child protection is not an issue for government alone. And I think that is the biggest challenge. And I think the communities need to play their role. Our community leaders, traditional leaders, our churches, because you see most of these things happening within communities. Most of the harm, most of the violence against children are happening within communities. And the communities, I am very certain, they know the people doing this. This needs to be confronted head on. And I think our community leaders, they need to speak up against the few who are tarnishing their image in the community. You see cases where even parents are getting impregnated their own daughters. I mean, the communities need to shame them. They need to get them. They need to hold them accountable, but they don't report. And even when the child reports, the child is then abused. So these are issues that need to be dealt with. These are the concerns of children. I think the biggest request will be for our communities, parents to love their children and make sure they raise these kids in a very disciplined way. But discipline does not mean abusing them. And that is what children deserve. This is what children are asking for. They should be able to feel secure and safe in the environment they live. And I take this opportunity to call on all our communities, our traditional leaders especially. They need to do more than what they are doing now, because the challenge is in the communities. It's not a government alone responsibility, because the government is not everywhere. The police alone cannot. So we need everybody on board in making sure we can protect our children.
Looking forward, what needs to happen between now and 2030 to ensure children's rights are fully realized through national planning and budgeting?
In Namibia, in terms of planning and budgeting, I don't foresee any issue because the government does that. So I would like to turn my attention to rather the children themselves, because you see, if no matter what the government do, if children do not capitalize on the opportunities that they have. Remember in 1976, when we were simply calling for quality education, and some of them lost their lives. So though we are calling for more safety measures or safeguarding measures, I can say with some certainty that at least our children here are safe to an extent. But they need more security. Notwithstanding, they need to take advantage of the opportunities they have now and capitalize on so they can grow to be more responsible. They should stay away from distractions, because there are so many things that are preventing them from realizing their dreams. We want to see more medical officers. We want to see more doctors, more teachers, more engineers, more pilots from Namibia. And for that to happen, they have to take the education seriously, because education is the only gateway for them to break out of the poverty that some of them might find themselves. And they should stay away from drugs, alcohol, and other substance abuses and focus. You know, we talk about teenage pregnancy, but We need children to be also responsible and accountable. While we call for rights for children, we also call for responsibility. And we need them to be responsible. We need them to respect their elders. We need them to be able to focus and learn so that they can grow to be responsible citizens. This is what we ask of them. They have an opportunity, but that opportunity can only be maximized if they remain focused and disciplined. Without that, if they continue to follow distractions, because these days there are so many distractions, and focus on the challenges, then they will not be able to realize their dreams. So while there are challenges, yes, we want them to focus on the opportunities and deal with the things they have control over to be able to overcome them and then achieve their dreams of becoming responsible citizens.
Before we let you go, what is your personal message to our listeners, especially young people, on this Day of the African Child?
My message is simple. You have this moment. Take advantage of it. Seize the opportunity you have. You can be anybody you dream to aspire if you put in the effort, if you dream big, and if you remain committed and dedicated, and stay away from distractions. That is my simple message. Remain focused, be resilient, and you can be whoever you want. Because if you take many of the people you see today, including myself, where we have come from is worse than some of the communities I've seen in Namibia. But we are where we are today because we remained focused, took advantage of the opportunities we had, and we had the Almighty God helping us to be where we are today. And I'm sure they can achieve more than we have. So I urge them to remain focused and learn, take their studies serious, and be disciplined.